Yeah, was that the cue? Yeah. Okay, lovely. Okay, I would like to welcome everyone once again to a very special event, a very unique opportunity to have Angi talk to us about all things mentoring related. It's one thing for me to go on about how fascinating her work is. It's another thing for you to take a look at her book, Deep In and Out. And I think it's an altogether different thing to actually have the chance to chat to her about our ongoing mentoring dilemmas, and there are quite a few of them, as we know. Things we would like to consult with a person who's been doing this for 30 plus, 40 years.
About that.
Something. A long time. Thank you so much, Angi, for taking the time. You're on holiday still. you accepted my offer to do this for us. I suppose primarily because she loves what we're doing. I update Angi on what we do, and she's loving the kind of professional friendships and the quality of work that emerged from this bunch of people.
And I know what you've been doing all last year as well.
We made some notes based on your goals. Before the meeting, you shared your goals, you shared what kind of things you're hoping to get out of this meeting. So we'll base it on that. But we're very happy for people to chip in as and when. You might have comments that you haven't shared before and you would like to check with Angi. That's all very beautiful, and we look forward to that kind of organic, informal communication throughout.
And if I notice signs of people nodding off, then we'll have to do an energizer or something. We'll see how it goes. It'll be organic.
Okay, so one of the patterns we saw in the comments people shared before this meeting was, why the 5 steps? Tell us more about the thinking that informed it.
Yes.
How did it come into being?
Right. I could go back. I've been worrying about how to begin this, because actually I'm going to start it about halfway through my journey towards the 5 steps. Otherwise, we'd be here all day. Right. It really starts with the idea that as a language teacher, I knew how important it was to understand language learning and the conditions you needed for language learning. Now, as we all know, the only conditions you need for language learning are motivation, exposure to the language, and opportunities to use the language. That's what I worked from as a language teacher, having synthesized, if you like, all the very complex writings of the widow fits, as I call them. I mean, Henry Widdowson and Brumfitt and various others. Very complex descriptions of how languages are learned, and Chomskyan perspectives and trees and goodness knows what. None of that was of practical use to me as a language teacher. But if I thought about keep them motivated, expose them to language, give them opportunities to use language, that was great. I'd done the same with how to parcel up bits of language to be learnt. So, at a more micro level. So I, again, synthesized all this very academic writing to something practical, which was I needed to go for get my students to understand meaning first, then focus on the then focus on how it was used and the usage, and then focus on the forms, both the written and the spoken form. So I'd done that work for myself as a language teacher. And then I got it, this is in my career, and then I got invited to do workshops for teachers. So I did workshops with teachers where we swapped tips and ideas and activities and things, and that was jolly useful, I found. But increasingly, as I became more of a teacher of teachers than a teacher of English, my subject changed. Teaching, that's what I was teaching. I was teaching. And perhaps the process of learning changed. So then I started, had to start again, really. It was a whole new career. I had to start again. I got all the tips and tricks for language teaching. I don't anymore. I'm not up to date anymore with the tips and tricks for language teaching, particularly with all the IT stuff, because, that's more recent. Then I started really focusing on how teacher learning, what needs to be learned and how that is learned. Again, it meant trawling through oodles of academic writing and trying to find a way of synthesizing that into something that it was practical and that I could use. And what I found was there are 3 types of teacher knowledge. There's know about knowledge. You have to know about stuff. You have to know about curriculum and all of that, and the students and the context and the rules and regulations and all of that. There was no how knowledge. You needed skills to do things like give clear instructions, write on the board. No, not write on the board. I expect it to use the whiteboard, interactive whiteboard. But anyway, there were skills. And there was another kind of knowledge, which was the knowing to. I call it knowing to, but it's, and again, my identification of this type of knowledge came from a variety of experiences. I would watch a brilliant teacher teach, for example, and afterwards I would talk to him or her, and I'd say, tell me, how did you know to do that? And they would say, well, I don't know, it just felt right. It wasn't a conscious thing. It wasn't an in-the-moment conscious decision. It hadn't been consciously planned. It was an intuitive knowing to do the right thing to support the learner's learning. And I really worried about this knowing to. How do I help my students learn to know to? And it came down to an understanding that experience was central. And another thing was also central. Two other things were central. Noticing, because I won't know to do the right thing if I haven't noticed and quickly interpreted in my brain, almost instantaneously, a need for me to do something, to keep the motivation, to keep the learning process going. Is that all right so far? Yeah. Okay. So I got 3 types of knowledge. Then I had to work, and a couple of them are conscious, the know about, and one is not, and is more complex. Okay. And this, by the way, is why mentors are essential in any mentoring system, because you are the ones, nobody at university can do it, you are the ones who help your mentees learn from their own and others' experiences. Real experiences. Mentors are essential. Right. Over time, this is the issue, because learning takes time. Well, it takes a lifetime. It takes career time. I'm still learning. You never stop. And that's great for a whole kind of reasons that I will divert off to. I'm coming back to how those 3 types of knowledge are learned in a minute, but I'm diverting off to why it's essential to keep learning throughout one's career. There's a really good book called Lives of Teachers by Huberman, and I can't remember the date or any of the references, but I expect Eleanor can find it and post it. And in it, he talks about mid-career teachers, the stages, how our feelings as we go through our careers. Mid-career teachers are of a few kinds. I'm going to pick out two kinds. There's the cynical kind, the teacher who's been in teaching for 10 years, but actually they haven't had 10 years experience. They've had 1 year's experience 10 times, you know. And there's the teacher who just keeps, as Huberman calls it, tinkering. Tinkering. It's what my dad used to do in the garage with the engine of the car, just tweaking little things, just keeps tinkering. And that keeps people happy. Not ecstatic, but content. Keeps people learning. And we know that because of Cheek Sent Me High. Have you heard of Cheek Sent Me High and flow? When you're in flow, you're not, some of you are nodding. I won't divert too much, I'll go back to 5 steps. But if you're learning, you're content, and in Britain at the time, and in many parts of Europe, there was a real problem with retention of teachers. And part of the reason they left was because of judgmentoring going on, with people going in and observing classrooms and judging what was happening. It was in the benign belief that this would be helpful, but we'll see later it wasn't helpful, and it could be positively dangerous. And that's what the data in the research showed. But anyway, part of it was to do with that, and part of it was to do with boredom. The teacher with 10 years of experience doing the same thing year after year, my God, how boring. And how bored the teacher must be, and if the teacher's bored, then the students will be too. There's no... Now, where was I? Help me, Eleanor. I've gone off on a tangent.
Cynical and tinkering teachers. Tinkering being...
Oh, yes, tinkering. Yeah, that's right. And learning. And the teachers who tinkered were contented, stayed in the profession, found great reward through the learning, and stayed despite, in many cases, and I think this may be the case here, the extremely low salaries they were getting. Okay. Right. So this was going to address some of the problems that there were with teacher learning. But I still needed to work out how, know how and knowing too could be learnt, and then learnt in a way that was integrated and personal and transformative and made a difference to what teachers did in classrooms, not what they talked about. You can go around the world, as I have been lucky enough to do, and have teachers use all the up-to-date jargon about stuff. And then you'd watch a lesson for research purposes, not for professional development purposes. And what they actually did was totally different. Why is that? How did what they were taught not impact on them? And that's because of something. So anyway, what I sort of developed was this picture. This is a teacher. You can tell it's a teacher, can't you? This is a teacher. This is a hand. And there's his head. And there's his feeling part. So there's his feelings. There's his hand. There's his head. Know about knowledge goes directly into the head. It's intellectual knowledge. It's the kind of knowledge I'm using and you're using. So what I'm saying is going straight into your heads. Will it emerge in your hands? Probably not, but it depends whether or not you were ready to hear this, and I'll talk about that readiness to learn part of things. Okay, this is the know-how, so that's sort of know about, which I call this is know-how, and this is the unconscious knowing too. Know-how can also become automatic. So I can learn, be trained, and this is training, how to drive a car. Yeah, but I'm thinking of a classroom example. No, that's okay. A classroom example of knowing how to do something. Knowing how to give clear instructions, for example. So, simplify, repeat, demonstrate, check understanding, monitor. I can have steps for giving clear instructions in the classroom. And I can practice that. And I could maybe have an observer helping me notice that I've missed out a step. So that can be trained. But the knowing too, so that becomes automatic. It's just by hand. Still no connection to that, and no connection to that. Because that's unconscious. But there are conditions in which your implicit knowledge, that gut feeling that it's right, can become conscious. And this is, help me.
Undermine.
Yeah, Claxton's work on modes of mind that helped me understand the conditions. And the conditions include leisure, fun, warmth, but not heat, those are the conditions we can provide for undermined stuff to surface into consciousness. Then it can connect with what's there. So what I had was, given the right conditions, stuff can come up into here, and it is this that prompts what we do. So there is connections. So I ended up, where's the pendulum? I ended up with that model. So from experience, the hand, we can swing. That will have fed, experience feeds the undermined that is unconscious. So it's begin and end with experience, create the leisurely, comfortable context in which realizations can occur to people, if you like.
Especially when people think about step one, starting from experience. Tell me about something interesting that happened in your classroom, something that stood out for you.
Yeah, you've got to start with experience, because experience is what feeds the undermined. Suitable conditions, and this is the knowing too bit, you see. So I am concerned, very concerned, with the knowing too. Now, those teachers I saw who did brilliant things, and I asked them and they said, I don't know, it just felt right. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But they had somewhere in their prior experience opportunities to learn for themselves the noticing skills and a certain amount of the processing of the noticing, not jumping to the first interpretation, thinking of others and so on, that we expect in step two. Anyway, I had various models that were more or less helpful to various people around the world. But the step, I also have I'm going to give you another one now, which is, this is a trapeze. What happened in the past, I noticed, and still does happen, was there would be the ivory tower of the university, the school, and there was no connection between the two. And when the poor student had painfully climbed up to the school, and when people in the school told them, oh, forget all that stuff you learned at university, this is what we do here, the link to new findings and new knowledge coming out of universities was completely broken. There was no access to it. And people used to talk about the theory-practice gap. Still do. Thank you. Still do talk about the theory-practice gap. But it's no use just pouring the theory into people's heads. We've got to help them link their know-about knowledge to their own experiences, both past and future. And then it will make a sense. We've got to create conceptual tools, practical knowledge for them. So that's a reason for step 3. And as a mentor, you don't have to worry about not knowing all the latest up-to-date things. Your mentees probably do, if you can help them remember what they learned at university. You don't have to know any of all of the up-to-date stuff. All a mentor needs to know, and know really well, and have the skills in doing, is how to facilitate that movement from their own past experience, creating the conditions for undermined insights to emerge, help them remember stuff they were taught that made no practical sense to them at the time. I'm not going to check with your students, Eleanor, but I would like to bet that at least 50% of everything you have learned here in the university, you can't yet see how it might be useful as a teacher, I think. I'm going to shut up now in a minute, because I can stand and talk for England. But as a very recent, I found on my shelves very recently a book called Thought and Language by Vygotsky. And this came out in 1970-something, or even 60-something. And there's no reason I would have had it unless it was a set text when I was training to be a teacher. I had not remembered a single bit of it, had not found it at all useful, thought it was obfuscatory and complex and rubbish. I needed to know how to do things, you know. Since when I found it again in about 2020 something, I thought, oh, that's nice, you know, I can make all kinds of connections to that now. I couldn't then. I hadn't had the experience to connect it onto, if you know what I mean. Anyway.
Readiness to learn.
I didn't have exactly readiness to learn. Right. These individual, because know about knowledge can happen like I'm doing now. You can read about it or you can be talked at. But that doesn't mean that you will learn it in any way, not even retain it in any way. Because necessarily, if you're not ready to learn it, to hook it onto something, it won't be useful to you unless someone helps you see the usefulness, how it connects to your own classroom experiences. So I know Eleanor's been teaching a lot of you, or talking with you, not teaching, but sharing with you a lot of the practical theories that I and Eleanor and others have found really useful. And that, by the way, is a tip for your mental meeting workshops. If people come up, like your psychology friend, if people come up with, find a practically useful that helps them in their thinking, conceptual tool, then it's great to share those and share how they helped you move forward in a particular dilemma.
Yeah.
Enough? Is that enough? Any questions?
A very practical follow-up to that. Actually, this is a question that got shared in the poll to prepare us for the meeting. One of the mentors said, how can I help a mentee notice something that they cannot see for several lessons in a row? How guiding do my questions need to be to help them notice? And this is a common thing that gets shared by mentors. You know, it's blatantly obvious that there is an issue in this class. The teacher is not seeing it, is not ready to notice it. How can a mentor help?
Okay. There are two things. First one is that I have found helpful in situations like those is to remember Mason's 3 categories of perception. I don't know if you know these, but I'll just quickly mark them. One is mark noticing. This is the easiest to notice. And we mark it. Why do we mark it? Because it's, you know, there's a herd of grey elephants, and in the middle there's a pink elephant. What are you going to notice? The pink elephant, yeah. Because it's unfamiliar, it's different, it stands out, it's unexpected, and it's unwanted. Which is why it's far easier for teachers to notice the naughty students than because it's unwanted and unexpected. But actually, what teachers really need to do is to notice the great students, the good students, because discipline's far better maintained if you give attention to the good students and compliment them on their behaviour or whatever, than it is if you give attention to the naughty students, too much attention to the naughty students. So it's hard because it's human to notice the unfamiliar, which is why when you travel, you're so tired, because everything is unfamiliar and there are no easy automatic routines. Okay, you just don't notice the familiar. And as a mentor, in step 1, as you listen to them describing, what they are describing is what they are noticing. They are remarking. They are remarking, they are talking about what they have marked. Second level of noticing is, this is my wording, I'm not sure Mason uses this, but they do register something. And if a mentor probes, and they can tell you, then they have registered it, but they haven't noticed it. Okay? And then there's the third level, where they just don't notice at all. And why not? Let me try and explain. I like watching ice skating, the Olympic ice skating. It's really fun, and they're beautiful, aren't they? And I watch this beautiful couple come out, twiddle about, do lifts, look gorgeous, slim and wonderful, she says. Anyway, look gorgeous, and then the judges hold up their score. Okay. I watch another beautiful couple come out, look beautiful, twiddle about, do lifts, and the judges hold up a totally different score. Why? What didn't I notice at all? Why didn't I notice what made the difference to the judges? Because I didn't know enough about ice skating. I didn't know, for example, and I'm not sure this is true at all, but I'm just pretending it is, I didn't know about the fact when you do a triple salchow, you must be on the outside edge of your blade or something like that. I just did not see that because I did not know about it. So, for a student who is not noticing stuff that we, of course, and by the way, we will have our judgments. We do have our judgments. And there was a judgment, and that's fine, because it's a judgment that guides us in what we need to do next to help our mentees learn. It's just we don't share our judgments with the mentees, but we use them. We have them. That, again, is human. I might focus on trying to give them more know-about knowledge in step 3, which then might lead, patience, absolute patience, maybe there's a lack of trust there, all kinds of things. It could be that there's a lack of trust, but anyway, I might do that in step 3 that might lead to a step 5 resolution to try to notice something of what you are concerned about. You're still being a mentor, you're still being non-judgmental, but you're analysing and thinking about what might have caused it. Lack of trust is the other one. Is your relationship really a trusting one? Did you spend time on mutual self-disclosure? Are people still trying to preserve face in front of you? So, there's a give it time, be patient, work on the relationship. And then the third one, a strategy I've used in the past, is a noticing journal. If you have a number of students that you're mentoring, you can ask people to write what they noticed in a particular part of one lesson, for example. Just write it and keep doing that. Students can compare what they write and will see that student A is only writing about the naughty boys, for example. And I'm sorry to use, but there are many other things. And student B has also written about the girls. And student A might notice the need to pay attention to the girls from that comparison that they see between colleagues. If you haven't got a group, then a noticing journal that you keep for yourself over, one lesson a week, you're writing what you notice for a 10-minute thing, and you do that all through the semester. At the end of the semester, you look through them and try to see if there are any differences. Are you noticing more or noticing differently? Are you noticing not just signs of behaviour, but signs of learning? Because my preoccupation with learning is because of my definition of a teacher. We are there to support learning. The first thing is to create the conditions for it, and then the next thing is to to react and respond to signs of learning emergencies. And I could go off on another tangent if I'm not careful. I better stop. So does that make sense? So a conceptual tool to help me as a mentor realize what it is my mentee is noticing and not noticing, and strategies to deal with that without saying, yeah, but I noticed. Or they may not work, and you may end up saying, oh, yeah, but what about looking at it? Can we try noticing so-and-so in the corner or something? But that's absolutely last resort. Time, relationship, Using that to think about your step 3 contributions and the journals, the 3 strategies I know on that one. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. I think it's a good time to see whether we have any comments on anything that has been said so far. We would like to follow the group's lead. Obviously, we have other comments that were shared beforehand, and we can always go back to them. But at this point, would anyone want to say something inspired by these lovely stories that Angie shared?
Right. Now, I've noticed with the students that I've been working on the faculty, with the really service teachers, that after, shall we say, a lesson, they really, they want me to tell them exactly what I think. So this non-judgmental thing is a cultural thing. Maybe I'm wrong. As I'm saying, times have changed. However, we tend to be direct. And sometimes I think, according to you, because you have a bit of a different culture, do you think that if as a mentor, somebody would be, well, not be so harsh, but, sort of give it into the mentee that, this and that, would that turn them off?
Well,
Because of
I understand absolutely what you're saying,
Right.
and our culture is not different. Our culture is exactly the same. People talk about, give me feedback, I want to know what you think. But the people who do that are the people who have not understood their own learning process. And if we do it, it keeps them in learnt helplessness. It takes away their agency and their empowerment. It is our job to try, and it's really hard for our generation.
Right.
Because it is so that's the thing about, I will do, where's the heart? I will do what was done unto me because my gut feeling about what's right comes from experience.
Right.
So my story about this, when Gary was a little boy, I remember this, and I was doing the washing up and thinking about my lesson planning for the next day. And he came to me, him and his brother were pulling on my thing and said, come on, mummy, come and play or do something. And I said, oh, go and play. Now, that's what my mother had said to me. And I always swore with my head that I would never say that to my children. And lo, what came out was that. And it is really, really hard. The strategies I have for that scenario, number one, I analyse. If somebody's saying, tell me what you think, it's either out of politeness because they think they ought to, or because they still believe that being told what somebody else thinks is going to help them learn, or that being told what to do is going to ensure that they do it, because they won't do it. So what my strategy is to say, oh, I'll tell you what I think later if it still seems important, but I'm more interested now in helping you come to your own decisions. And I must say, Betty, I am frequently grateful I do that, because by the time we get to the end of the conversation,
You've already figured it out.
that they've not only have they figured it out, but they've figured out something with a solution and what to do next that's completely different to what I just said. And sometimes I was wrong. I hadn't noticed something that they had noticed, which meant that I wasn't. But I'm, sometimes very grateful. I held myself in. But it's taken me years, I have to say, it's taken me years to get there. It's very uncomfortable for us because the youngsters, or our mentees, think that we're deliberately withholding and being making them think and work too hard. And it's really hard. And sometimes, of course, in your support role, when you're just chatting, at other times you're in the staff room and you're just, if you're a mentor in the same school, which in my mind is preferable. I know not all contexts can do it, and I know you're doing external mentoring, so it doesn't apply. But in chat, in a support role, you can say, well, this is what I would do. And I'm awful with Eleanor, because we're so close now, that even when when we did that official mentoring experience thing, we end up just chatting, don't we?
It's difficult to stay on script.
It's really difficult. It's easier, I think, with somebody with whom you have a more official mentoring role, but yeah. But I understand exactly what you said, and we all have that. A friend of mine, Doina, she was president of the Romanian Mentoring Association at one point, and she likened it to eagles, I think. There's a certain kind of eagle that when it gets too big, or when it has to pluck out its feathers in order to be able to fly. And it's a painful process. And she said that this unlearning that we need to do before we can work out how to genuinely support other people's learning is actually pretty painful and hard. And takes us forever. I'm still, as I say, yeah. So thanks, Betty.
Yes,
Yeah.
perhaps we should know, as Lydia mentioned, how to approach, what shall I say, some of the set phrases that might,
That's what I tried.
Inspire the mentee, but you don't actually impose your views.
Exactly.
This and that. So it's like starting from as a model, starting from some.
I've put a few in the book, but I think it's a great idea that you as a team share set phrases that you've used that have helped you out of sticky moments with your mentees. I think that's a great idea. And the other thing, if we're talking about language use as a mentor, other groups of mentors I have worked with have made lists of taboo words. So should is taboo because advice always comes from a place of judgment. You can replace it with could in certain circumstances, like support role things, Anyway, there's lots of sharing you could do. But thanks for the question, because it is a common thing.
And I think it goes both ways, actually. And we've discussed this in our latest meeting, if I'm not wrong. When mentors feel like it would be rude for them not to offer this social help.
Yes.
They see a colleague struggling, and our human impulse is help this colleague, offer to carry their bags, So it takes training, shall we say, lots of practice to withhold this urge to help someone in a social way and switch to more pedagogical kinds of help. Because yes, we are developing relationships, but our main, surely our prerogative is supporting learning.
Yeah,
and we don't
absolutely.
support learning by doing the tasks for our learners, right?
Yeah, exactly.
By being, ChatGPT does exactly this. ChatGPT offers to do the stuff for us, and there's no learning can happen there, because surely, especially when it comes to teaching, it needs to be experiential.
It does. Yeah.
What if the learner wants to, or your mentee in this situation, what if they want to compare how they think and whether their thoughts are similar to yours, and maybe they look up to you as a mentor and they want to see, would I act like my mentor or would I do something differently? Do you think it's still bad to share how you would react in certain situations, or is that fine?
That was actually painful.
Yeah, it depends is the answer to that.
Does it depend on whether you think your mentee can distinguish their own kind of perception and work their own way out despite having your own little judgment?
So, I do. It depends where your mentee is on their learning teaching journey, because if they are still at the point where they believe that other people know,
like know better than them and they should follow?
know better than them.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows your class better than you. Nobody does. Might know other stuff. We all know different things. It's a collaborative thing. Even to the point that with some mentees, I have positively not, even when invited, given my thoughts, in the steps. They've invited me to say things. I actually not, because on previous occasions when I've said it, they've taken what I say as the thing, not as a choice. So I pretend I don't know. I haven't got any ideas. Because I don't want
To impose your
my mentee to rely on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it gets to the point that I know perfectly well they'll do their own thing, whatever I say, and they'll find it useful, then it's okay.
Yeah.
So-
This was a bit of a personal question for me because last time when we talked with Lenny Dan, I think I was kind of going through that. Like I didn't know if what I was learning and how I was learning was okay, and I needed constant reassurance from my teachers and superiors, oh, am I doing this correctly? And I think I've grown from that. And,
Good.
And having Lenny give me the answer that she did, which was, you need to take your own agency, even if it's wrong, even if you mess up, you will learn from that more than me telling you, hey, do this.
Absolutely right. So I know it was a bit painful for you.
It's a lot harder to kind of take responsibility for
Yes.
your actions.
It is.
It's a lot more useful. I agree with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. It's a lot more useful long term, and you will grow quicker
Yeah.
through it. So great. That's the mentee's experience on that. Perfect.
This conversation reminded me of a question that Anna had with regard to how strict do students need to, and mentors need to be with regard to following the SIRP protocol. Perhaps Anna can add the other ways in which they're currently using it with your colleagues.
I was using your steps, I guess, during the course with Professor Elena because I'm just finishing my degree. And at first I was really hesitant about the steps because I'm not a fan of theory a lot, but I've come to realize that you really actually need it. And at first, the first time that we started using the steps, I didn't like it. I was like, I don't want to have barriers and boundaries to start with this and then just stop talking and then continue with another question. And as I started my human mentor kind of journey, I realized that I didn't feel as there were barriers between these questions. I felt that it was more of a conversation. And sometimes even my mentor didn't need to stop me mid-conversation to ask me, so what does this person say about this? Or why do you think that student reacted that way? I kind of continued the steps, it was like a soliloquy in a way.
Yes.
I just started talking and talking and talking. And at first glance, I would say that it looks a bit scary and it looks hard because you feel like you're answering exam questions. But
Oh, poor you. Sorry.
it really does, because when you're giving the questions, you feel like, oh God, what if I say something wrong? What if I say something incorrect?
Not possible. Yeah.
And I think after I kind of went through this journey, even through noticing and even with the human mentor, I kind of started having a conversation with them, and rather than just feeling like I was answering the questions one by one, I was just giving my own kind of explanation to everything.
Great, is all I can say. I'm sorry it looks a bit scary, but it is sort of really necessary to integrate it so that it makes a difference to what, because if we're helping teachers learn, it's so that their teaching will better help their students learn. And it's a bit complex, teacher learning, because of the different kinds of teacher knowledge, but But it is a process. If you can get into the habit of thinking in that way, you're going to keep tinkering, keep learning, rolling, accumulating more knowledge, therefore having more little spikes ready to attach new bits of knowledge you come across. It's going to be, you'll have a fabulous career. So well done for sticking with it, is all I can say.
It was a bit of a struggle at the beginning, but when I found out, I guess, the way and the little kind of ways how to figure out everything, it went more smoothly.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Lovely. Can we, shall I turn to the audience for any more insights, comments, questions?
I would say, like, when I was listening to the younger mentees talking about their experience, it reminds me of my experience in terms of when I always talk to the younger people, they're always so stressed out. They always feel like they're doing something wrong, and they feel like being judged, and then, oh my God, if I say this, then I will make terrible mistake, and then I will fail, and I will be the worst of all. Yeah. I think like the first thing that I need to tell them, like, relax. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not
It's
be
important
perfect.
you do.
Yeah.
Nothing worthwhile ever got made or learned without loads of mistakes on the way. I mean,
Yeah, that's how you grow.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, chill.
Any other comments?
I believe that if mentees have that intrinsic motivation to learn and grow, I think that they will definitely succeed. And good guidance from mentors, support, facilitation, I think that everything will be fine. I know that we're living in a world where everyone is judgmental. We will experience that. But I think that these young people, if they accept mentoring, then they will grow into professionals who will accept constructive criticism as a step to grow even further in their profession.
There are this whole assessment and judgment versus mentoring thing is a complex issue, because historically observing lessons and giving feedback, which is impossible for an observer to do, because feedback is provided by the receiver of an action, and the people who give a teacher feedback are the students, and they give it all the time if a teacher notices.
Yes.
But historically, managers thought, well, mentors are going in, and mentors also historically started by observing, but that's for training, you see, but it doesn't work for integrated teacher knowledge. Because how can I ask at step one, describe what you noticed, if I've been in the classroom observing? I mean, well, you were there, you knew. I mean, it's plus, if I'm in the classroom observing, the mentee is not stupid and will know that, of course, I'm having judgments, and of course I'm noticing perhaps more, but certainly differently from the mentee. And what is important is what the mentee notices. It's not what I notice, because I'm not there to judge. I'm there to support learning. But systems need, a certain, some way of accrediting, some way of ensuring that taxpayers' money is being used to, so it's sort of legitimate, I suppose, for systems to send in observers who then judge. But what the feedback will be a whole list of things. What it doesn't leave the mentee or the teacher knowing is what to do for themselves to get back, to change things. It just leaves them with a whole list of things to improve.
But you don't know where to start.
But know where to start, exactly. And a feeling probably of, oh my goodness, I've got a whole lot of things to improve. But then so have we all, actually. So have we all. But But managerially, if there's already somebody going into a classroom observing, which mentors were originally back in the 80s, they can also do the assessment, and they started conflating the roles, and the whole thing was awful. Plus, the early mentors, and me too in the early days, had their own experiences had been of being observed and provided with feedback. So that was my experience, so that's what I did, before
I think SIRP teaches, the 5 steps teach us how to arrive at our own judgments and not necessarily to rely on others to tell us how we're doing in our own classrooms. And I think that's a very important, agency is very important. Surely we should, in teacher education, we should be looking to develop agency in this sense, rather than waiting for someone to come and tell me how I'm doing. I know how I'm doing because I'm following the temperature of the classroom.
Exactly.
I regularly chat to my students about how they're doing. I try to notice more and more. I get mentoring to help me notice more. So therefore, I don't need an external presence to tell me how I'm doing.
No.
Because there is so much information already available for us to notice and use if we are ready to.
If we're ready to, yeah.
I think we more or less exhausted the points that people were hoping to learn more about. There was one question that was potentially indirectly answered, and that was what keeps Angi motivated, inspired to still be interested even beyond your official career. You're now retired. You don't have to do any of this.
Well, I keep telling Eleanor I'm retired, but the minute she messages me, I'm just interested. I'm passionate about it. I'm delighted you're doing what you're doing. I hope it grows, and I followed quite closely, and I have the time. And I tried looking for lots of hobbies. I tell you what, I'm not very good at being retired. I don't quite know what to do. Because nothing else quite seems as worthwhile as being involved in mentoring.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I hope that many of us will experience the same thing, having our career as the most rewarding thing in life.
Well, my family, of
Tinkering
course.
our way.
But my family have grown up, they don't need me interfering anymore. They need me for occasional bit of babysitting and that kind of thing, but otherwise I'm not really needed in that sense. So that's what keeps me inspired.
Lovely. I guess if there are any other comments or questions, please share.
So Mason, just going back to that, it's above me here, so I've been looking at it. I think Mason calls it barely noticed, I think. But he does speak about the ability to upgrade something which was barely noticed into something which is marked through the process of, recounting it and going through it. If someone's sort of talking around what's been going on, and there's a couple of things that they've clearly marked, but maybe something that they've barely noticed, would you generally, as a mentor, try and push them towards exploring that more? So there's the importance of noticing, but is there even sub-importance between things that have been noticed?
What would make the difference between whether I push them to notice more, whether I would explore it as a mentor, it depends on my work in my own head. Because my job, I've got several jobs in step one, but one of my jobs is to really try to get enough information from the mentee so that I've got a clear picture, or like a video of that little moment that the mentee is describing. And if I personally, as I am working to make this mental video, if I can't see what was happening in that corner, or if it seems important to know what's on the walls, or whatever in my video that I'm making, I will ask, now hang on a minute, I can see I can see the students. I can see that group of students over there and what they were saying, and you told me, and I can hear what you said back. But what I'm not seeing at the moment, it's fuzzy. The rest of the class. What were the rest of the class doing? You know. So it depends on my work, and that I think is what pushes.
Yeah.
Barely noticed to more upgraded. And next time my mentee will know that I'm asking about the fuzzy bits and will probably try to notice more to be able to tell me. So, yeah.
Which made me think of yet another challenge by a few mentors when chatting to their mentees, and mentees saying something along the lines of, I don't know what stood out for me. It was all fine. I'm doing well. Everything's going fine. I have no idea what I'm doing here. You know, that kind of, an inability to be critical, thinking that everything's going well.
Yes.
And there is nothing to improve.
Which is great, because one can learn as much from things that are going well as one can from the other things. So you think, great, well, that's absolutely super. Now then, let's see what we can learn from all those great things that went well. So that, what's the best bit for you? What was the most exciting bit of the lesson? Let's start there, because you want all of your lessons and all parts of your lesson to be as exciting. So let's start there. And you will guess. And it may be that what comes out is a list of criteria for what made that bit exciting that could be used in more activities. Or it may be, as is often the case, that what comes out was it wasn't quite as wonderful as the person first thought, and one can find little tinkering bits to make it even more wonderful. But you can learn as much. And to me, a mentee saying it was all wonderful, I'm nothing to learn, probably says more about the relationship. Probably says more about the relationship.
I don't want to lose face.
I'm not losing face. I'm not telling you about the bits that actually sort of deep down worry me. And that's fine. Go with it until you've got the trust. Until you've got the trust.
So you shouldn't probe when that kind of, when you get that kind of reaction out of a mentee. Like, you're not supposed to push them. Like, oh, but we're supposed to talk about this.
No. No, you don't push them. You say, oh, you accept.
Okay.
And you want to explore their experience so they can learn.
What if their second response isn't them actually telling you a bit more about the wonderful bits or what happened, but it's another answer of, like, you get another, it was fine, I don't really know.
Then you say, okay, I want to be able to see in my head. I mean, it's hard work for a mentor to adapt to that. You would say something like, great, I'm glad it was wonderful. Imagine I'm Steven Spielberg. I'm going to make a movie of your wonderful lesson. Please help me see it clearly. Who would I need in it? Where would they be? What would they say?
Now you make it more lighthearted and you kind of go out of the classroom to make them comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And wait till they're comfortable enough to say, well, it was mostly fine, but but I genuinely mean that. Start with things that went well. It's far less threatening than starting in a new relationship with what your mentee perceives as being problematic.
I remember actually situations like this when I was not entirely sure what to focus on, and Angi would get me to describe the whole thing, and I was like, but shouldn't I focus on one thing that stood out for me? She said, just tell me what happened, in a kind of, over coffee kind of way. And I would describe the lesson, and she, as an experienced mentor, she's able to sense where I might experience some confusion, uncertainty, struggle, when I'm not entirely sure about what to think about what happened. Obviously I need more clarity, etc. And then she would latch on to the bit in my description or bits in my description that she feels provoke a kind of emotional response, and then she decides, how about we focus on this?
Yeah.
Fine, and then we proceed. I think a rich description, starting off with what happened, tell me more, I'm trying to make a mental video, is you can't go wrong with that.
You will be able to hear in the choice of words, or if you're reading body language carefully enough, you will be able to notice an emotional charge at one or more places in that description, and be able to say, you seem to be a little hesitant there, or you said, shall we use that? Let's focus on that.
And it's always been useful from experience. Lovely, thank you so much.
One more question. In our system, you were talking about system, so I have to ask. New teachers undergo a mentoring period of being mentored for 9 months, 1 academic year.
Yeah.
Now, the real challenge here for mentor is to try and do the best they can to help the new teacher, let's say, acquire or improve their skills within this period. So when the mentoring period is limited, do you think that, and how do you think this model can work?
Right, yes.
Because I'm sorry, after that they take a state exam of being licensed in a way.
Okay, but it's pre-licensing.
Yes.
Yes. You've got the standards they have to achieve before they can get their license. The exam, of course, is all head work. Do you have to? Who does the assessing of the other types of knowledge?
There is a special commission from the Ministry of Education.
Okay, the inspectorate that comes. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Well, the mentor is crucial. It's those periodic review mentorials that you do against the standards. How where are you on the standards? What evidence came out of our previous mentorials so far about where you are? Again, you're getting your mentee to self-assess against the standards for as long as you can. Well, probably all the way. And then what happens if by the end of the 9 months the mentee is assessed as not being ready for licensing?
They can have another year, I think, before of mentoring, before they can, or actually they can
retake the test.
Yeah, retake the test in the next session.
Okay. Well, and then the mentor needs to take what and work with the mentee to make sense of what the assessor has said. 9 months is short. It depends on where the mentee is, and what can I say? I mean, as long as there is scope for there to be more time. For me, mentoring is valuable at any stage of a teacher's career. But particularly necessary because of the reality shock that was documented in many studies of the huge difference between going from university to school and being a teacher. They really need support then. Sorry, Mimi, what were you saying? But
how pushy can we be then? that was the question.
The story of the boy and the story of the boy.
Yes, thank you. I will tell you a story. Thank you.
You wanted to share
I did want to tell you this story. This is a story about a little boy, not unlike his brother, who used to love insects, all little insects and things. And he was out in the forest and he saw a cocoon on the bark of a tree. And there was a teeny weeny hole in it. And it was just as the butterfly was about to come out. And he was fascinated. And he stood there watching. And then he got a bit impatient because he wanted it to happen more quickly. So he huffed on it and huffed on it some more, and sure enough, the hole started getting bigger and the butterflies started emerging. It started emerging until it came out, and he was horrified because there in the palm of his hand was a deformed little butterfly that quivered and died. It needed the gentle warmth of the sun, not heat. It needed the time it needed, not our time. It needed its own time. And that is a story I remember when I'm thinking about how pushy to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's
Sure.
Yes, do we have time? Yes. Okay, what Mimi made was very good point. That is exactly how I felt before, let's say, before we started this project. Because me as a teacher mentor, all right, I have come across and I have worked with different types of personalities. Not students, but teachers who have graduated from their faculties, right, from the universities. And when I got here, okay, I was a little bit encouraged about the steps. Let's say I was a little bit skeptic because I said, oh, this is completely different from practice. This is completely different from reality. Because when teachers, graduates actually, get their first job, yes, they have that 12-month period to work under mentorship, our guidance. And they expect ready-made answers. They expect us to tell them, you know, the best, the best solution for their problems. Not problems, but teaching problems in the classroom. All right. I tried in my, let's say, in my experience, I have tried not to do that immediately. Because how I work, have achieved something. With their, you called it noticing journal, okay? So even me, when I start, even nowadays, whenever I have new students, especially with the inclusion, let's say, I always notice. I always write my noticing. Okay, and then when my new mentee comes, I give them a notebook. I write kind of a quote, let's say, which will inspire, and I share my story. Okay, and that's how I think we have been establishing good relationship even afterwards. Okay,
Great idea.
and doing this course, let's say, being part of this project, have taught me to become more patient and to listen more. And also, as you said with the butterfly thing, it also helped me, okay, to give my mentees more time. That it won't happen overnight, that they will not become successful overnight, that it's even up to them, it's even up to together, maybe me guiding them well, right? Taking all those different roles, maybe just a supporter in those 15 minutes, just a supporter, or being just a listener, or being just an educator, or I don't know, giving them guidance to read to kind of psychological book maybe, or something like that, to search more on their problem that we have talked about together. And I would just move a little bit, okay, to that a concept that you wrote, the university and the school, okay, and I'm very proud of what Elena is doing.
Yes, absolutely.
If I can say that.
You can.
Being part of this. In which way? Because I've been mentored to teachers graduating from different, not from our university, right, okay, different types of profiles, right, and they are completely different in this attitude, getting to work into school and working under mentorship. Yes, I like their self-confidence, right, on one way, but on one hand, but on the other hand, they are not ready to listen. By doing what you have started, and being, how to say, mentor with students from this faculty, from this university department, actually, right, and other teachers, you know, I can see that we are moving forward. Right.
We're building bridges.
This group of, how to say, people are actually ready to listen, to learn, to grow, and to take their time until they become butterflies. Right. Okay.
That's beautiful to hear. Thank you.
I'm happy for being part of this. Right.
It's great, Nat. What Eleanor's done, this is a bad drawing. Trapeze artist. Okay, there's Eleanor swinging to hold hands with mentors in the school.
Apologies for the
so
casualties.
that students don't have to do the painful and are not cut off. So it's teacher learning for me is U-shaped, not cyclical.
Definitely, but it depends on the person first of all. Yes, if we generalize, from my experience, we mentors always give our hands, right? So it's sometimes up to the other person to grab that hand and to shake together, right?
It is.
Bring it together.
It does. Beautifully said. Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, I would like to thank everyone for your patience, for your attention span, despite the heat, despite the other responsibilities I know you have. And thank you very much, Angie, for taking the time. I think this was enlightening. For me, it was enlightening, and I hope it was.
It was. I've said
it's still it's always new to revisit things from a different
and I'm terribly sorry it's all knowing about, but I'm in this heat, getting up and jigging about, I think would be too exhausting for us all, wouldn't it?
We do the practice in between these bits.
Do the experiential stuff.
Thank you so much for helping us with that. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. I hear all about you all the time. So, it all starts with recalling past experience. That's step one. That experience will have, as it were, fed the gut or the heart, and products, meanings or interpretations are surfaced in a leisurely playful step two. Ready to be connected to other things the mentee knows about, theories, context, individual biographies, that's step three. And then in step four, the gut and the head come into play together to make a robust argument for the selection of a most likely interpretation. That's step four, which leads to planning for the many implications for learning, students and mentees, which is step five.